Hare Krishna. So today we will speak about the teachings of Prahlad Maharaj. It is very interesting that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who came here in this world to propagate the chanting of the holy names with the intention to bring us to loving devotion to Radha and Krishna. He very much loved two stories from Srimad Bhagavatam. Do you know which two stories they were? Prahlad Maharaj, it was one story, yes, and the other one? Dhruva Maharaj, yes. Apparently not connected with the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. But he regularly heard these stories from Gadadhar Pandit, and he visited him regularly, and they read together from Srimad Bhagavatam these two stories particularly. And when Gadadhar Pandit finished with his readings, Lord Chaitanya asked him, please read it again, and read it again and again and again and again. 10 times or maybe even more than 10 times in a row. And we know that these pastimes are going from one chapter to another. And this is not a very short story, it's a long story. And they were in such an ecstasy that the copy of Srimad Bhagavatam of Gadadhar Pandit was washed away by the tears of loving ecstasy of both of them. So much so that when Srinivasacharya came to learn Srimad Bhagavatam from Gadadhar Pandit, he couldn't teach him from the Bhagavatam because it was all washed out from his tears and from the tears of Lord Chaitanya. And so he sent him back to Bengal to get another copy of Srimad Bhagavatam. And when, of course, at that time, everything was written by hand. It was not just you went to some shop and temple shop and buy a copy of Srimad Bhagavatam. So when he came back with his copy of Srimad Bhagavatam, Gadadhar Pandit already left to the spiritual world. Yes. So Prahlada's teachings are extremely important for our understanding of our tattva, who we are, and our sambandha gyan, what is our relationship with the Lord, and what is our relationship with this material world. And as stressed many times by Bhaktivinoda Thakur and other acharyas, we cannot chant the holy name properly without sambandha gyan. So it's really important to know very well what is our relationship, what is to be hankered for, what is to be prayed for, and how to connect with the Lord. So today we will look to the most famous verses of Prahlad Maharaj, and we will see how much time we will have, because there are quite a lot of these verses. And we will speak something about each of these verses we can manage to cover today. Okay? So, it is interesting that when Hiranyakashipu, when Prahlad was 5 years old, he was very enthusiastic about him because he loved his son in materialistic way, of course, and he wanted, as every parent, he wanted to know what Prahlad learned in school from his teachers. What is the most important subject he had learned. And because the boy was 5 years old, we can consider that he was quite out of touch with his son, because it was only at that time when he learned that his son is actually a devotee, influenced by some Vaishnavas. Because Prahlad, as we know, he was taught Vaishnava philosophy when he was in the womb of his mother. So 5 years he didn't know that his son is a Vaishnava. So he asked him, what is the best thing you have learned? And he said that sadhumani suravarya dehinam sadasam udvigna dhyam astadgrahad hitvatma patam grihamanda gupam vanam gato yadharim ashrayeta. And it's very interesting. Oh, the best of the demons, he entitled his father, and we have heard this from Chandramauli Maharaj. And, this was a compliment for his father. Best of the demons. Yes. He said, what I have learned from my teachers. Of course, he referred to Narada Muni, especially. That you actually, he turned to his father. You are attached to asat graham. You are holding to something that is asat. Sat means something real, something eternal, as Krishna explains in the second chapter of Bhagavad-gita. Nasato vidati bhavo, na bhavo vidati sata, uber api drishtortas, uber api drishtortas, tvanayos tatva darshivi. That what is real is eternal. It doesn't end. And what is temporary, it's just a form of illusion. Here he said to his father, you are holding to something which is asat, which is not permanent, which is illusion actually. Because everything we see is non-existent. Interesting, isn't it? We can consider it is existing, but it's not. Because even if we take it from the side of material science, it is not existing. Because everything in this material world is in constant change, isn't it? And the light is traveling sometime, even from the most close object. Hare Krishna. Yes. Something very disturbing, I said, maybe. Okay. It's now okay? You hear me? Okay. So, even from the closest object, the light is traveling some time to our retina, to our eyes. So, because everything is changing, always changing, so what we see has already changed. Of course, very insignificantly for our perception, but nevertheless, it changed. So what we see is not existing anymore, actually. So what we see in this world is everything asat. Asat, yes. Hare Krishna. Yeah. it seems that these machines don't like Asat idea. Yes. Is loud enough? Okay. So you are holding to something that is not real. Please wake up. Yes. And Tatsadmani Suryavarya Dehinam Sadasan Mudvigna Dhyama Sadgrahat Hitvatma Patam Griham Anda Kupam. And you have fallen into blind well of materialistic household life. Griham Anda Kupam. Anda is blind and Kupam is well. And in India, there are wells. It's not like we have this idea in Europe because well is built something around and it's high enough. But in India, there were wells that were just a hole in the ground. And if it is blind, that means that there is no water inside. And if one falls into such a blind well, he has dark destiny. Yes, because he can kill himself, or even, I don't know, break his legs and something. Once Lord Chaitanya was dancing in ecstasy, and he fell in such blind well, and devotees were terrified. What happened? And they were running behind Lord Chaitanya, and then they saw that this well was filled with fresh butter. So he was floating in fresh butter, soft fresh butter. But you have fallen in such a blind well of materialistic household life. Please wake up. So you're just dying. And so this is very important instruction for us, because many of us are grihastas, including me. So if we hold to some enjoying spirit, then we'll just suffer. There will be no juice, in fact. What we are counting on juice. And this is the way of falling into the blind well. But what we get is just suffering. And therefore he said, Vanam Gati Ashrayata, that you should go to Vrindavan. As Prabhupada here is explaining, you should go to the forest. That means you should take vanaprastha life. A 5-year-old boy says to his father, you should, basically, you should be not attached to your household life. That doesn't mean that we should go all to the forest, but we are here just in the forest, practically speaking. So we have listened to the advice of Prahlada Maharaj. So we should know that every aspect of life, if we want to be happy, is sacrifice. It's just sacrifice. And everything should be done for sacrifice, as explained by Lord Krishna also in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavata-dharma. He said, Yagyartat karma non yatra loka and karma bandhana tadartam apikante muktah sankah samachara. If you perform your activities as a sacrifice for Vishnu, then you are always free. But if you perform it for your sense gratification, for your happiness, you'll be just miserable and you'll be slave to your activities. Yes, bound, helplessly bound. So we should know that our life, in whatever ashram we are in, it's just sacrifice. And if we have this idea, I have to give up brahmachari life, because I'm a servant in this position and I want to enjoy life a little better, will suffer. If this is our idea, we should know this is my propensity, so I should get married. But I know this is a sacrifice. This is a sacrifice. They both should know, a husband and a wife. If they know this, then they can live peacefully. If they want to be masters, either of them, they'll just suffer. They will suffer. Because we are not masters by our constitutional position. We are servants. And this doesn't change in any time in our life. So we are always the servants. So if we have this idea, I am the servant, and servant of the servant, then we can manage and be happy. Because this is, if we are in our original position, we are always happy. But if we are not, we just suffer. So he said, please take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and become detached from Asat. Become detached from Asat. So, yes. And then his father was very angry. He said, who taught this nonsense to my son? He said, because we should know, because the son was, Prahlad was growing up in a court of the most powerful demon. So no Vaishnava could ever enter in his life. So how did this happen? And he blamed his teachers for this. And Shanda and Amaraka, the teachers of Prahlad, were terrified. What will this Hiranyakashipu do to us? They apologized. No, we didn't taught him this. We don't know how these ideas got to his head. So please, we will teach him lessons. And then they taught him, and because Prahlad was very meek and a humble personality, like real Vaishnava, so they thought that Prahlad had learned his lesson. So they took him to his father again. And father, of course, now he was convinced that now my son has been deprogrammed and he thinks in the right way. And so he asked him again, what you have learned. And even before this meeting again with his father, when he was taught by his teachers, Prahlad said that my consciousness is by itself attracted by Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yes. And like a magnet to iron, it goes by itself. So this is in fact the goal of Vaishnavas, of sadhakas. We are all sadhakas. Maybe I offended someone, some pure devotee who is already achieved perfection. But majority, I believe, are sadhakas. So this is the goal, that our consciousness should be attracted to the Lord just naturally, just like a magnet to iron. Yes. And he said that your teachings are because they were teaching him some politics. And this is my enemy, this is my friend, how to behave to your enemies, how to behave to your friends. Cannot stay in my heart, because I see everyone as Lord's servants. as loads, parts and parcels. Yes, so yes, this is very important, because if we, as Maharaj, Chandramauli Maharaj explained this morning in his lecture, if we hold grudge to someone, or we are envious of someone, or we want to retaliate for something bad that happened in our life, that means that we are acting in this demoniac way, that these demoniac teachers have explained. Yes, this is my friend and this is my enemy. But if we act like this, we will never transcend this material consciousness. We will always stay under the influence of the modes of material nature. Yes, and we will consider other people. Yes, you hurt me, so you are my enemy, or I don't like you, even. We should know that everything what is happening to a devotee is actually happening by Krishna's mercy. And if we envy or we have bad feelings towards anyone, that means that we envy Krishna, and we have bad feelings towards Krishna. Yes, and we don't, not just that we have envious feeling towards Krishna, we don't realize that Krishna is just our best friend, and that whatever is happening to me is just happening for my best interest. This is one of the most important lessons that we should know. Tatte nukampansu sumikshamano bunjana evatma kritam vipakam kritvakva burbirvidatannam asti jivetayo mukti pati satayapak. This was a prayer of Brahma in 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. The devotee knows everything what is happening to me is just mercy. It's just mercy. Even if destiny, so-called destiny, is just beating us, it's just mercy. We should know this and always remember this, because as Maharaj explained this morning, Prabhupada said that the difference between material and spiritual worlds is envy. If we envy someone, or we have bad feelings toward anyone or anything, this doesn't need to be even a living entity. It can be something what annoys us, is envy. And this means we are staying in material world. Yes. And this, maybe we think, I don't envy anyone or anything. But this feeling that we are annoyed by something or by someone is expression of envy, is the sign of envy, if we are annoyed. Because why? Why is this? Why do you think this is a sign of envy?
Because something goes not in accordance with our plan, and we think that our plan is superior?
Yes. Doesn't go according to our plan. Exactly. That means we want to be a controller. But we are not a controller, and therefore it goes against our plans, against our expectations, against our material happiness. And so we are annoyed because we don't have a power to control this. Hare Krishna. Yes. Okay. You have a question?
How can we change it?
Can someone get the mic that we can hear?
How can we change this?
How can we change this?
This material to actual spiritual, which is good for us.
First, we should be aware of this, of our problem. And to be aware of this, we should hear, regularly hear. Therefore, as Prahlad Maharaj will explain in the next verses, he was speaking to his father, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasivanam Archanam Bandhanam Dasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. Hearing is the first thing in spiritual life. Without hearing, we cannot chant properly. Even if we chant with improper mentality, by committing offenses, even unknowingly. And if we commit offenses, knowingly or unknowingly, we cannot achieve the goal of our chanting, of our spiritual process. So hearing is, as Prabhupada many times mentions, is the utmost importance. Hearing. And by hearing we can understand what is proper mentality and what is not. And when we know that this is something that creates obstacle in my spiritual progress, is that we are annoyed by something, or we hate something, or we envy someone or something, then we can pray to Krishna. We can pray to our spiritual master. We can pray to overcome this, because it's not in our power. We should know this. We are helpless. We are helpless. Devi hiesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mam eva ye prapadante mayam etantarantite. Krishna explains in 7th chapter of Bhagavad-gita. This maya and envy, of course, is the expression of her power, of Maya's power, is completely impossible to overcome. It's duratyaya. Maya is duratyaya. We cannot overcome. But mam eva, eva means certainly. If we say eva, if there is eva in the verse, we should know that this word strongly supports something. Certainly. But if you take shelter of me, then you can transcend it. Yes. So we should know how to surrender to Krishna also. Yes. In one class recently, I have heard that because we don't have such live connection with Krishna, our real connection is through sadhus, of course, spiritual master. And we should learn how to be a servant through sadhus, through devotees. How to be a servant to Krishna. Because this is the process. Devotees are more dear to Krishna than he himself is dear to himself. Yes. So we should know how Krishna is satisfied if we are his the servants of his servants. Yes. So this is the most important thing to know. So if we try to rectify our consciousness by service mentality, then and of course with prayer to Krishna to help us, then we can transcend by Krishna's mercy. Yes. Shushushokshad danasya vasudeva kataruchi syanmahat sivaya vipraha punyatirtha nishevanat. And of course, as explained here, by kataruchi, we can really devote ourselves and by service to the great souls, to the devotees, we can surrender to ourselves to Krishna. And then Krishna himself is purifying our heart. Shrimvatan svakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana hridyantak stohya badran vidinoti sukhritsatam. Krishna, who is dwelling in our heart, can cleanse our heart if he is satisfied with our hearing and serving attitude. Yes. So this is very important. You have a question?
Should I wait with it till the end of the class?
It's best to have questions now.
No.
Yes.
You mentioned earlier that
Is Mike there?
I'll
Okay.
scream.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier that we shouldn't try to enjoy, that this is something that brings to failure ultimately.
Yes.
Yet we've seen many times that some people who judge about their level falsely and take too many austerities, they end up falling in a horrible ways, sometimes very perverted ways. So how to deal with it on a daily basis? I mean, like, let's say a married couple goes for a vacation. Clearly, that's not service, that's enjoyment. At the same time, you could say that's how I charge my batteries to then continue as a parent and a worker for the rest of the year. That's enjoyment or that's necessity for service? How do I know on a daily basis? In cases like that, you know?
This is a very good question. Yes, unnecessary austerities are, of course, many times obstacle to our life. And therefore, it is not in this age of Kali, it is not recommended process austerities. Of course, austerities for Krishna's pleasure that are explained as Krishna's pleasure, as fasting for Ekadashi or for appearing days of avatars or great acharyas, it's beneficial to fast or at least abstain from grains and beans. But otherwise, our austerity is service mentality. Because this is not in our conditioned nature to be a servant. In fact, it is most dreadful thing. I remember when I just started my Krishna conscious journey, I learned through Prabhupada's books that I should be a servant. And then I thought, oh my God, now I have to be a servant. I tried all my life to be a master, to achieve something, to be very powerful and so on. But now I have to be a servant. And this was really terrifying thought. Maybe we are used to this thought to be a servant, and we become some sort of immune to this idea. Doesn't touch our heart very deeply. But we should understand this, that we are in fact servants of all living entities, not just devotees. Because Krishna says in 15th chapter of Bhagavata-dharma, Mamaivam Shur Jiva Luki Jiva Bhutak Sanatana, that every living entity is just part and parcel. So we are servants of every living entity. So we should understand this. And our Grihastha life is also meant for service. For service. And I heard one very good instruction from Jayadvaita Maharaj last year here in Simhachalam. And what is really beneficial for Grihastha life also. And that is that our expenses should be as close to zero as possible. that may seem very unpleasant or even fanatical, but by this we can become free. We are not slaves. If our expenses are as close to zero as possible. We are not in debt, for example, and we don't work very hard, or at least we need not to work very hard, because we have not so much expenses in our life. Very little is enough. So we can be free. But if we have many desires to fulfill and many artificial needs, then we are always in some anxiety. Always in anxiety. We should know this. That okay, we can go to some vacation, no problem. But if our idea is we should enjoy, we will suffer. We will definitely suffer. And we will not enjoy our holidays either. Something will come in between and we will be frustrated. Because material life means frustration. Of course there is some enjoyment, and Prahlad Maharaj also explains this in his verses. And very interesting thing he says, Sukhaya dukkha mokshaya sankalpa iha karmana sadapnotihaya dukkham anihaya sukhavritaha. That Sukhaya dukkha mokshaya, that those who are after material happiness, sankalpa iha karmina. Karmina means those who are trying to be materially happy. They strive and they have sankalpa, real strong intention, strong determination to achieve sukhaya, to achieve happiness, and to be dukkha mokshaya, to be free from misery. Sukhaya dukkha mokshaya sankalpa iha karmana. Sada apnotihaya dukkham. But what is the result? Sada means always. They achieve only misery, only dukkha. So, if we want to be happy in materialistic way of life, as grihastas, we will suffer. Sada apnotihaya dukkham. Anihaya sukhavritaha. Yes. So this is, and that means that those who don't strive for material happiness, they're always enveloped in happiness. Strange enough. So if we try very hard to achieve happiness in material life and to avoid distress, what we get is just distress, just suffering. And if we don't strive for material happiness, we'll be always happy. So this is the secret, which goes against all our expectations and what we are taught in this material world. Because we are taught to that we'll become happy if we work hard for material happiness, and we'll work hard for to avoid distress. But the opposite is true. So, but of course, if we maintain our material desires, if we maintain our ideas, what is materially beneficial for us, we'll live our life in materialistic way, and so we'll suffer. So of course, the solution is not some extreme austerities. This is not our way. But simple living, high thinking. This is our motto in our life. So we should know this. And simple living means nothing special, but to have our expenses as close to zero as possible. So maybe for someone this as close to zero is something different as for another one. But this should be our mentality. This should be our mentality. Then we'll be happy. Even something happens to our life, we are peaceful if we have this mentality. But if we don't, if we strive for material happiness in material way, we'll just suffer. Definitely we suffer. Hare Krishna. Yes. And then it is interesting, as we explained, that that his father was again wanted to hear what Prahlad learned, and he said that these 9 processes for devotional service. You should engage in 9 processes of devotional service, and I consider this to be the highest of all knowledge. He says, "Iti pumsarpita Vishnu bhaktischa navalakshanam." Yes, Krita Bhagavata-dharma tan manyeditam uttamam. I consider this to be the highest knowledge. And of course, he became furious. Hiranyakashipu became furious upon hearing this. But Prahlad didn't stop at that time. He explained even further how Matirna Krishna Paratak Mitovi Pratyeta Grihad Vratanam Adanta Gobir Vishatanta Misram Punach Punach Charvita Charvanana. That no one can become devotee if he is materialistic. Not by his own endeavor, not by endeavor of others. And he just he's just chewing the chewed, what already had been chewed. So we try to squeeze some enjoyment from this life, but we will fail. Prahlad is always stressing this in all his teachings, and then he will also teach his school friends. He's always teaching this, that this life in this world is not meant for material enjoyment, because it will end in suffering. So we should know that this is definitely true. And if we have at least some small intelligence, we should believe Prahlad Maharaj. Because I believe everyone has this experience also in his own life. Is there anyone who was just happy in this life? Is there anyone who didn't suffer today? No one. Not even one single personality. Yes. So we suffer every day, in fact. But many times we are so accustomed to suffering that we don't even know that we are suffering. For example, something that we may not consider as suffering is that we have to go to the toilet. Isn't this a suffering? Because if we postpone our need to go to the toilet, then the suffering will really begin. Isn't it? Yes. So this fact that we have to go to the toilet is the beginning of suffering. And our day begins with this. So we should know this is a world of suffering. World of suffering. Yes. So, but Prahlad is teaching us how to be enveloped in happiness. How to be enveloped in happiness. Yes. And he also, not just that he says to his father that no one can be happy in this world, and not even by your own endeavor or by endeavor of other people or by combination of both even, one cannot become a devotee of Krishna, but just chewing the truth in this material world. So we just want to get some juice. But he gives a solution also. And he said, Nesham matis tavatanukramim sprashatanartopagamo yadartah mahya sampadaracho niskinchananam nebrinitayavat. So you can become happy if you smear yourself completely with the dust of your devotees. Of course, this was not something that Hiranyakashipu loved to hear. But this is the solution for us. Maybe even for us it's not as easy as it may seem. To smear our body with the dust of the devotees. But this is important for our spiritual life. The dust from the feet of the devotees and Mahaprasad of them is considered to be most powerful medicine for this world. So it's advisable to smear our body with the dust of the devotees. And what does it mean to smear our body with the dust of the devotees? What do you think? Serve the Vaishnavas. Yes, two same answers at the same time. Yes, to serve the Vaishnavas and to be free from envy. In fact, we can try to serve the Vaishnavas, but if we cultivate envy in our heart, maybe we admire some Vaishnavas and we tend to be envious of others who maybe even did something wrong to us. Many times someone may make something wrong to us. It's not even necessary, it's just a devotee, just ordinary living entity. How many are them? For example, a mosquito. But if we hate mosquitoes for biting us, this is a sign of envy. So we should get rid of this envy mentality. Yes, please.
Another question.
Yes.
So if I have to consider myself a servant and know that I don't know best, that things should go in accordance with Krishna's plans. Let's say I'm in a position where I am responsible for, Sunday program. And somebody doesn't go in accordance with my plan of Sunday program. On one hand, it's my responsibility to make sure everything's on time. On the other hand, as a servant of devotees, I'm not supposed to, let's say, ask the lecturer to keep up to the timetable. And it's not a case where I can ask my guru what to do. You said that we should talk to sadhus because we're not in connection with Krishna. So in situations when I have a responsibility, which is my service, and somebody doesn't follow the rules that I've been given also from my seniors, am I a servant if I kindly ask to stick to my plan? Or am I a servant if I allow things to go as Krishna has arranged?
Yes, this we should understand. What is proper and what is not. And therefore, Vaishnava etiquette is very important to understand. If we are put in the position of, for example, of an editor for books, because I'm also an editor, so we are a professional fault finder. So, in this case, you should find faults and try to rectify, because it's your service, but not with the envious mentality. He's again going against the plans. This devotee, always the same guy, and therefore I'm really annoyed by him or her, and I have bad feelings for him or her. But we should know that there is something for us also to learn. Of course, we have to rectify the situation if this is our service. But in a service mentality mood, yes. Otherwise, if we think, yes, we are master in this situation, and he or she is my servant, and he should listen to me, then we have a wrong mentality, and we'll commit offenses. Although we may achieve the same thing if we do it in this proper service mentality. But if we do it in different mentality, with different attitude, we will not accrue offenses, but otherwise we'll do. And this is very important to understand. These offenses are, in fact, the most dangerous obstacles in devotional life. So we should know what are the offenses. And also Prahlad Maharaja's teachings are also about this mentality, that we should understand what is good for ourselves, for our devotional service, and what is not. Yes. And then Prahlad started to teach his school friends. What was even worse for Hiranyakashipu, because he considered that now he will turn against us, demons, also the children of the demons. And this is the worst scenario. That's why many parents, when the children become devotees, are terrified. You have this experience, any one of you? Your parents were terrified? Even you? You look like Indian.
Yes, Indian
Still? Your parents weren't devotees?
they were devotees, but they had some ideas about ISKCON, so...
Oh yes. So it was hard to become a devotee, and the idea that you became a Hare Krishna devotee was terrifying. My children are against me. Will destroy my reputation and what I want to achieve in my life. Yes, and this was also the mentalities of these demons. And what Prahlad taught to his friends is really important for us to understand also. Kaumara acharit pragyo dharman bhagavatanniha durlabhah manushan janma tadapyo dhruvam arthadam. This body is adruvam, is very weak and will definitely be destroyed sooner or later. But nevertheless, although this body is useless in some way, it is very important because by the human body, which is extremely rare, we can achieve the highest perfection. And we should know how rare is this body. For example, we think that here in this temple room there are maybe 30, 40 devotees, I don't know, I didn't count it. But that not much more living entities are here. But in fact there are billions and trillions of living entities in this room. For example, to be healthy, every person should have approximately 2 kg of bacteria in our guts. And can you imagine how many living entities are these? 2 kgs if you are healthy. You wanted to ask something?
I was just asking myself these questions, if bacteria and viruses are living entities actually, or they're just like paramatma without other, or Krishna's energy
without a soul. Every cell of our bodies also has a soul. Our body is like a universe, in fact, of innumerable souls. And we are like a presiding deity of this universe. Yes, like Brahma of our body. Yes. So innumerable living entities. And in fact, we should know that everywhere are innumerable living entities. Because Jiva Tattva is one of Lord's energies. And all Lord energies are unlimited. Unlimited. So living entities are sarvagata, as Krishna explains in second chapter of Bhagavad-Gita. Yes, sarvagata. That means that they're everywhere. Everywhere. Even in the outer space, everywhere just living entities. Because what are living entities? Are particles of spirit, as explained. And so wherever there is Lord's Spirit, and this is everywhere, there are particles of His spirits also. There are His living entities. So, and today we have read in the morning class, even if every living entity in this material world would go back home, back to Godhead, it would fill again with the new set of living entities. So there are innumerable living entities. This is something which is achintya, impossible to understand with material mind, because material mind always operates with the beginning and end. So if we count living entities, we should sometime come to an end. But there is no end. But of course this is beyond our intelligence. How it's not? There is no end to living entities in this universe even. There's no end. Unlimited living entities. Yes. So we should know that this human birth is extremely rare. It's sudurlabha, manushan janma. Yes. And we should devote ourselves to serving Krishna as soon as we know about bhakti. We should not postpone our devotional service. If we do, then we will regret. Because we know that Acharyas explained that this we cannot something most detrimental is to waste time. To waste time. And so if we waste time in our life, not using the time for devotional service, we are wasting our life. And not just wasting our life, that our surrender will be just a little bit later, but what happens if we don't surrender immediately, completely? We get our impressions of, that means, because if we don't surrender, that means we try to enjoy this material world, in other words. And by trying to enjoy this material world, we receive these impressions of enjoying spirit. And by these impressions, but when we start devotional service, it's so tricky, because we consider ourselves as servants as Krishna's devotees, but at the same time we also have these impressions of enjoying spirit. So it's detrimental for our spiritual life. You understand? If we start devotional service later in our life. But if we don't surrender fully at that time, then we have both experiences. We are as a devotee and sense enjoyer, if we simplify. And therefore this enjoying mentality is very difficult to get out of our consciousness, because we combine these two mentalities, and we consider them okay. Understand? So Kumara Acharit Pragyo here says Prahlad. So immediately when we become a devotee, we should become a devotee with all our heart. And this is the path of pure devotional service. We should know that this is the path of pure devotional service. And we can ask ourselves, or we can object, and we can say, but I'm not pure yet, so how can I practice pure devotional service? Isn't it? Do you have some such thought maybe sometime? But practicing, that means sadhana bhakti, is by default you're not pure yet, isn't it? Otherwise you won't be sadhaka, you will be sadhya. You'll be perfect. So we should practice pure devotional service. This is one of the messages of Prahlad Maharaj. This is extremely important, to practice pure devotional service. Therefore we should know what is mixed devotional service. And Shri Prahlad Nrsimha ki jai, Shri Lakshmi Nrsimha ki jai, Nitai Gaur Pramanandi. So we should know what is pure devotional service, what are the obstacles to pure devotional service. Because our sadhya, our goal, is dependent on our sadhana. So if we practice mixed devotional service, we will never achieve the goal of pure devotional service. We should know this. Because many times we can hear these misconceptions. So I'm not pure now, so how can I practice pure devotional service? But pure devotional service, we know, is anya bilashita shunyam jnana karmadena avritam anukulyena krishna nushilana bhaktir uttama. That means we should be free from all tendencies to have other desires than devotional service. Fortunately, it doesn't say anya bilasha shunyam. That means that we are completely free from all other desires. But it's anya bilashita shunyam, to be free from all tendencies to desire anything else. And what does it mean? What's the difference? What's the difference? Yeah. Yes?
Probably that the one is external, we see it, and the other one is that it's actually internally, that we are desiring something but we maybe don't show it.
Okay. You had said something? Yes.
We might not be pure yet, but we still are practicing and trying to best.
Okay. And you?
In one case, you have the desires is always there, but the tendency is to react to the desire, to follow the desire. So the desire will always.
Yes, very good thoughts. In fact, of course, because we are not pure yet, because we are sadhakas, we have many desires. Who knows how many desires? Who can count? But if we want to get rid of these desires, if we know that these are not good for my devotional service, to my progress in devotional service, and we are just striving to get rid of them, this is anya bilashita. We don't have this idea that these desires are not the problem, really. If we have this idea that these desires are not the problem, this is impurity. Maybe some devotee who is more advanced than we are has much less material desires than we have. But if his idea, his mentality is that this small desire is not a problem, then this is not anyabilashita idea. But if we have many material desires, much more than this devotee, but we want to get rid of all of them, and we are not in peace with them, then this is anyabilashita shunya. Yes, we should know this. So we should strive to practice pure devotional service, and this is a very important topic. And Prahlad Maharaj later on, when Nrsimha Dev already appeared and killed his father, he wanted Prahlad to accept different boons from him. And what Prahlad Maharaj said to Nrsimha Dev, do you remember? Yes.
I think that he is not going to do some business with.
Yes, that he considers if someone comes to the Lord with anything for his own benefit, he has just Vanik mentality. Vanik, you know what is Vanik? Merchant. Vanik is merchant. So business mentality, yes. To want to establish some business. And this is very subtle, because we know, for example, in Mayapur there is also Nrsimha Dev, very famous Nrsimha Dev. And have you heard that this Nrsimha Dev is many times lovingly addressed as Dr. Nrsimha Dev? Have you heard this as Dr. Nrsimha Dev? Yes, because he's prayed for health. But this is Vanik mentality. If I ask the Lord for health, for wealth, or good husband, good wife, good children, for peace, everything of this is just material boons. So what is the proper mentality? What is the proper mentality? Yes.
To ask how we can serve best, and to ask him how we can,
Yes.
if he can take away the obstacles.
Yes, the obstacles, and we may suffer because of this taking away of obstacles, because many times we are very much attached to these obstacles. Yes, so sometimes we may suffer because of taking away obstacles. But we shouldn't be afraid, because maybe we can see that some devotees are afraid of Lord Nrsimha Dev because he can be ferocious. And if we are not pure, we are afraid that maybe he will be angry at us and do something unpleasant to us. But we should know that the Lord is very merciful to his devotees. And even if something happens in our life that is not pleasant, it's just for our benefit. For example, if we have a toothache and the tooth has to be pulled out, it's not pleasant, isn't it? But it's beneficial. Or even if the tooth is drilled, it's very painful without this inoculation. But and sometimes in older days it was everything without these injections. It was very painful. It was something that Sachinandana Maharaj said, that when I at my dentist, I forget that I'm not this body. It's very difficult to meditate on this point, I'm not this body, because it's so painful. But this pain is just beneficial. If there is not such a pain, this is in fact not beneficial. It's a curse. And we can see if the children are spoiled, that means that they don't suffer from their parents, usually. Because the parents don't enforce discipline on them. But then later on they suffer very much in their life. Because they cannot live in this world. They're not prepared for this world to live in. So if some suffering comes to our life, we should know that Krishna is very merciful. Krishna is very merciful. And he teaches me in most mild way possible. And this is what Prabhupada is teaching us. That I deserved much worse, but Krishna is so merciful that he's teaching me in a very mild way. Yes. And if we speak, we have spoken about this suffering and happiness in this world. And this is another thought of Prahlad Maharaj. He says that he says, Sukham Aindrikam Daitya Diha Yogina Dihinam Sarvatra Labati Devat Sarvatra Labati Devat Yata Dukhkamayatnata. That happiness and distress come on its own. So if we strive for happiness or we don't strive for happiness, we'll receive some happiness, just as misery comes on its own. Because no one strives for misery, isn't it? Do you know someone that would knowingly strive for misery? No, not a single one of you. But misery comes on its own, even if we don't strive for it. So in the same way, happiness will also come on its own way, if we strive for it or not. So it's useless to strive for happiness. It's best to strive for something what is worthy of striving for. And this is, of course, how to become a better servant. How to become a better servant. Yes. This is most important thing to understand. How to become a better servant in all circumstances. Yes. One thing which is important is never to decline service. If we are offered some service, never decline the service. Because if we decline service, that means that we don't want to be a servant. Or this service we are offered is too low for us. Of course, there may be situations that we don't have time to do such service because we have some other service to perform. But our mentality should never be, I don't want to do this. Because then I have a master mentality, not a servant mentality. Yes. So, the time is getting... Oh, you have a question? Yes.
I see a lot of devotees burning out and taking on too much service.
Yes.
Not paying attention to their health.
Uh-huh.
And not understanding their boundaries. Can you give us some guidance about that?
Yes, this is also a very important question. So we should know that that taking off or not engage in too much service is also service. Yes, it's also service, because if we burn too much, then we cannot perform any service. Or we, because we are burnt out, will not perform our service properly. So, if we think that we are overburdened by service, we should seek guidance by our superiors. If you are so senior devotee, then very rarely it will be imposed too much service on us. But if we are not, then we should seek guidance from senior devotees, of someone who is senior to us. And of course, if his wise personality, or he or she is wise personality, he can guide us. So, of course, we should know that overburdening it's not service. If we are burning out with too much service, is also against the service, what is beneficial for our service, because nothing will be done properly if we are burnt out. And also our attitude will not be very good. And if we're just afraid to decline something, then we'll commit offenses towards devotees. Why they burden me so much? We will perform because of some fear, something, but in our mind we'll criticize the devotees. And this is, of course, the greatest disservice to our spiritual progress, criticism. Yes, please.
I have another question. Regarding what you said before about the material happiness that we strive too hard for it, my question is, can material stability, on the other hand, also help us if we don't have to worry, for example, of our income, if we have like a well-paid job and we don't have to do too much for it, or if we have special talents and we can, I don't know, engage them as well. So isn't there also this balance where we feel that we can use our income and for good things, especially, for example, to donate or to go to Vrindavan? Where is this balance?
Yes, we should definitely use our talents for service of humanity. Especially if we serve Krishna, this is the best service to humanity, with our talents. We should engage them, not neglect them. But our idea of material stability is illusion, because nothing is stable in this material world, and it will end in defeat. Definitely, because we will die. Sooner or later, if we count on material stability, we'll be cheated. Sooner or later. Because we are attached to material stability, we won't gladly leave this world. Because we will count on material stability, on our whatever we count our happiness on, we will turn to this. If we count that our family will bring us happiness at the time of death, we'll cling to our family. Or if we count that money will bring our stability and happiness in this life, then we'll cling to our money and we'll try to give as much as necessary to doctors to prolong our life even for a few days. And so this material stability, of course, Grihastha life means to make some favorable environment, that means also stable environment, but we should rely on Krishna, not on material environment and circumstances. Yes, this should be our focus. Then we can be happy in happiness or distress, materially speaking. Even if earthquake comes, then everything will be destroyed. Our whole life endeavoring in the minutes, for example. So if we count on this material stability, we'll be completely miserable. But if we count on Krishna's mercy, on devotional service to Krishna, of course we'll not jump of happiness when if everything is destroyed by the earthquake, but we'll have the proper mentality, the proper mood, and we'll be satisfied within ourselves. And this is most important to understand. Of course, we should, as you said, we should use our abilities, we should use our talents for Krishna's service. And but if we have this idea, I should make money now, and then I'll use this money for devotional service later on, this is illusion. This is a trick of Maya. And I know many such devotees who were speaking like this, and they're not devotees anymore. I don't know if they succeeded to make money or not, but they're not devotees because their focus was not devotional service. Their focus was making money. Yes. And this is detrimental for our spiritual consciousness. Even because our false ego is made in such a way that we present to ourselves, not just to others, but to ourselves, our deficiencies, our conditionings as something good. And this is, the whole Bhagavad-gita is based on this. Because we can see from the first chapter of Bhagavad-gita, Arjuna presented his attachment to his family members, his, in fact, most violent attitude. Because this Arjuna's non-violence is the expression of utmost violence. Because he was so-called merciful to his relatives and friends. But if these were strangers, he would kill them immediately, without consideration. So he considered these are mine and these are foreign. And this is Pritak Bhava, as explained by Kapila Muni in third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we should know our life is meant for Krishna's service. And all our abilities are meant for Krishna's service. And if I have some job, this is good if I use this money for Krishna's service. If I don't use this money for Krishna's service, of course also our house that is properly maintained is also Krishna's service. That doesn't mean that we should live like a pauper. But we should always keep this mentality. I'm Krishna's servant. I go to my work as a Krishna's servant. And I use this money as a Krishna's servant. I maintain my family as Krishna's servant. I bring up my children as Krishna's servant. Yes, always we should have this mentality. And then we'll be in Krishna consciousness. Is this okay? I missed something?
No, thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Is there any other question or a point to be discussed on?
Yeah, you were making the point that we have some grudges or negativity towards anyone, it's so holding us back so much.
Yes.
Advancing, and I can observe in myself that, of course, there is envy, but another part that really makes me suffer is that if, as that happened to me, that I really like this person, and this person started to offend others, and now I'm like really having a problem with this person and how to deal with such a situation, because we see that actually we all want to do our best, but it's just
Yes. This is not so rare. Thank you very much to bringing this out. Have you all heard the question? The question was if I like someone, some devotee for example, and he or she starts offending others, what to do in fact? How should be my attitude towards such a person? If we are really good friends and we can assume that this devotee would listen to my advice, that I believe that he or she will be influenced by me some way or another, then I should try to convey this, that this is detrimental for spiritual life, to criticize others. Even if I criticize others because they did something wrong, but this is still detrimental for my spiritual life. And we should try to convey our friends why this is not beneficial for them, and that they should try to avoid, even if they are right. But just this mentality is not proper. But if we don't succeed in helping in this way, we can try to help them in another way, to approach their seniors, that we believe that they can help them. Is this understandable? So that we approach their superiors, to those who we can, not that they are envious of, but to those they respect and they may listen. So we approach them and ask them to help them. But if we don't succeed in any of possible ways, we serve them again, our friends, by avoiding them. Because if we support them, even with our association, then they will tend to think that everything is okay. And they will just continue with their offenses against other people, against other devotees. So if suddenly these devotees who are offending others would become completely alone, they would think that there is something wrong with my attitude. But if many devotees are just associating with them, they will think, yes, just fanatics or stupid people, they don't associate with me. So associating with such persons who don't listen to any advice, to avoid criticism, best service to them is to avoid them completely. That doesn't mean that we envy them or we hate them, but we have this. We should have this understanding that I serve them in my best capacity to avoid them. Yes. Is this okay?
yeah. Just the thought came to my mind if still the negative feelings are there, then we can pray, maybe that helps.
Yes, of course, prayer is always beneficial for everyone. But outwardly we should avoid them if nothing else can be applied. But we should pray. We should pray for our friends and our enemies, so-called enemies. Because devotee should be ajata shatru, that one whose enemy was never born. Yes. Anything else you would like to discuss? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande.